Will the Braves give it one more shot with Micahel Soroka, and what other arbitration-eligible players could be non-tendered this upcoming offseason? We'll discuss that and more on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at Shortstop Ball. Also, make sure you check out my written work over at bravestoday.com. Make sure you follow the podcast on social media at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. If you're new on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, getting close to 7,500 subscribers there on YouTube. You're watching this video there. All you got to do is hit that little thumbs up button to help support the show. And thank you so much for all your support here at Locked On Braves, making this your first listen of each and every day, or just listen to us every day. I don't really care if we're first or not, although that would be great, but I appreciate everybody who listens to this podcast each and every day. And even though it is the off season for the Braves, we got a lot of content coming your way right now. We are still 5 days a week and will be for pretty much most of this off season. So make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the decisions with Micahel Soroka. Should the Braves tender him another contract? They take another shot at him in 2024, knowing that's likely going to be his last year with the Braves before becoming a free agent. What other arbitration eligible players could they potentially non-tender, as you got to make some room on this 40-man roster? So we'll discuss all of that on today's episode, get some of your feedbacks as well. See Jeffrey Humphreys in here, Matt Mock as well. Thank you so much for joining the show. Also going to be watching this Diamondbacks-Phillies game right now. It's in the 6th inning. Diamondbacks up 3-2, so be keeping an eye on that. Before we get into all of that, though, this episode's brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. As we go to the 7th inning now, and between the Diamondbacks and the Phillies, Matt Mock saying, "Let's go Snakes." I'm afraid only one run lead isn't going to be enough. I am too, but we'll see if they can hang on. We'll see if the Braves hang on to Micahel Soroka. Pretty big decision here coming up in the offseason. I see some people had jumped in the chat even before we started recording today. MIC Donkeys saying no chance they let him go before the 2024 season. You got Kevin M saying yes, short and only answer in terms of saying that they should let him go. Grace True says no, the price is right and he would be ready around spring training. Keep and try Soroka one more year at least. And I think that's a good question as well. Is that, end of the season on an injury, I think the Braves need a little bit more certainty of his injury status and whether or not he's going to be ready for spring training. How severe was that numbness in his forearm? Is that continuing? So that could play into this decision as well. But let's break down everything regarding this Micahel Soroka decision. Jeffrey Humphreys saying, "I hope we keep Soroka," and he does great. I do too. Look, you heard it from me all 2023. You know I love Micahel Soroka. I love the story. I want to see him come back. I'm rooting for this guy, maybe more than anybody else. I want to see the return. I want to see him get back to himself. That being said, I think we got to, face reality here that he may never get back to that guy and may never become, just an even solid big league pitcher again. I don't think that's the case. I think he will. I really got to start checking out my hair before I jump on these podcasts, but I got to think, Braves are thinking seriously about this, as I use the word think too much there. So let's get into it. Should the Braves bring him back or non-tender him? Micahel Soroka, still just 26 years old. Kind of crazy to think, but he obviously did come up really young. But he's still just 26. Injury problems. Look, even before the 2 Achilles injuries, he had shoulder issues. And you're seeing it right now with Kyle Wright. You see it with a lot of other pitchers as well. Shoulder injuries are really troublesome, and they never seem to go away. Those scare me even more than forearm strains and elbows. Shoulders are just a whole different beast. And when that goes, really tough to come back from that. So he had the shoulder injuries. You tear the Achilles twice, same one, and then you end 2023 with some forearm inflammation as well. So again, it's the guy that's just 26, but it's also somebody that's dealt with a lot of injuries here early on in his career. Through 25 innings in 2022, on his way back at the minor league level after not throwing it all since going down with that first Achilles injuries in 2020. So you're talking about, a 2-year break there for Soroka, 2+ year break at the major league level. This past season in 2023 at AAA, you look at the numbers and they give you hope. 17 starts, 87 innings pitched, a 3.41 ERA, a 1.07 whip, 25.9% strikeout rate, 7.9% walk rate, and 0.62 home runs per 9. Those are great numbers. And those are numbers we're used to seeing from Micahel Soroka. And obviously, if he could replicate that at the big league level, we'd have Micahel Soroka pretty much close to where he was before. But that wasn't the case when he came up. He never could really put it all together. 7 games at the big league level, 6 starts, 32 1/3 innings, 6.40 ERA, a 1.48 whip, 20% strikeout rate. So that strikeout rate dropped, almost 6% from minor league level to the big league level. Walk rate went up just a little bit, not much, from 7.9 to 8.3%. But here's the key one. I told you he had a 0.62 home run per 9 rate at the minor league level, 2.51 home runs per 9 at the big league level. And I think, when you go back and watch Soroka's starts or, while we were analyzing while it happened, the one thing you could say is he's leaving pitches up, particularly that sinker and the fastball. I noted it a lot this past season when talking about his starts, that fastball command. He just wasn't able to get those pitches down in the zone frequently enough, especially that sinker. Just didn't have that dive on it that you're used to seeing. And at the big league level, you leave pitches up, you're going to give up 2.51 home runs per 9 innings. So that's certainly something he has to work on. I think if he can correct that, then I think we can see, a solid mid-rotation, maybe back of rotation starter. I still think that is in there. The slider in my mind was mostly still good. It wasn't great, but again, it's a guy that hasn't pitched at the big league level in 2.5 years. So for me, the key, and again, you can go back and listen after some of his starts during the regular season, I still believe the key with Soroka kind of turning that corner is being able to get that power sinker down in the zone. If he can do that, play that slider off of it, I think there's still the potential there for him to be a really good starter. The velocity was fine. That's the one thing you worry about him not pitching for so long, coming off injuries. What is the velocity like? The velocity was good. There was no concern there. So as far as just pure stuff and potential, I think the potential is still there. Again, if he can get that sinker down. Remember, this is a guy, he had to, completely rebuild his windup and his delivery to try to avoid further injury. So he's still having to deal with that and learn how to control that. So if he can get that down and if he can keep those sinkers down in the zone, those fastballs, the 4 seams at the top of the zone, those sinkers down and in to righties and those sliders down and away, I still think he can be an effective, if not even really good mid-rotation starter at the big league level. So the potential is there for Soroka. Got some things he obviously needs to work on. All that aside, let's talk about the outside stuff. Let's talk about this arbitration debacle and the way that the Braves handled Soroka last year. Look, their hands were tied because of all the injuries in the rotation, but in my mind, they brought up Soroka before they needed to, should have. And I think in a perfect world, and Alex Anthopoulos even said this, they want, when they bring up Soroka, to bring him up to stay. But because of injuries, I think they were forced to bring him up a little bit sooner than they wanted to. Again, perfect world, I think you probably just let him spend first half of the season, maybe more of that at AAA, manage his innings, let him continue to work on things, and then you bring him up and you give him 4, 5, 6 starts in a row at the big league level. He never got that. And look, he never came up and just proved that he deserved a spot in the rotation, but he also never got that 4 or 5 start stretch like Yonny Chirinos did. And so I think that was mishandled. And then there was the fact that, you could have manipulated his service time a little bit so that you get another year of control over him. And that's what a lot of us thought he was doing. I thought for certain that's what they were doing when they kept him down the whole time. They kept rolling Chirinos out there and others. I thought that's what they were doing. And then you call him up before that deadline. He gets injured. You have to put him on the major league injured list, which means he's getting that service time. And now you don't get that added year of control because now he has 5 years of service time. I think they completely mishandled that. If you're talking about a Soroka right now who has potentially 2 years of control, I think it's a no-brainer that you bring him back and you figure that out. But now that he only has 1 year of control, he's out of options. And, you're looking at the guy that's going to be a free agent after 2024. Now I think it becomes a serious question of what you do with Micahel Soroka. And again, it just seems like a miscalculated mistake by the Braves. Maybe they were just going to bring him up for that start and then send him back down and stop that service clock again. But once he got injured while on the major league roster, they were forced to put him on the major league injured list. So again, I think that was a big mistake by the Braves. Now, looking at reasons to keep him, I'm going a little long on Soroka here. I apologize, but reasons to keep him, he's still young, further away from major injury as the Diamondbacks ground into a double play here. Nope, foul ball. He's still young, further away from injury. If he can get that sinker down, like I said, I think he can be a really solid pitcher at the big league level. He's still only going to cost you $3 million. That's not a lot for a guy with his upside. You're not going to find any free agents out there that you can get for $3 million that have the upside of Micahel Soroka. Because like I said, if he gets that command of that sinker, I think we're talking about a potential mid-rotation starter. So you're not going to find that type of value on the free agent market. And you need the starting pitching depth. As I've seen some in the comment here say, the Braves need depth in the rotation. Lee Carter saying, Jake, we need pitchers real bad. I don't disagree there. Absolutely. The Braves need pitchers, and that's a real reason to keep Soroka around. Now, reasons not to keep him. You can't trust that he's going to stay healthy. It's just, can't really do much about the Achilles, but now you're talking about a guy who's had shoulder injuries in the past, and now he's having forearm inflammation. It's just not a great track record there for Soroka. If he can't figure it out, as we get a double here from Marte, if he can't figure it out, you've wasted $3 million, money that could have possibly been spent to go get, a better, more proven starter, more reliable starter in the free agent market. Maybe that instead of going and get a starter at the $8 million mark, you're able to go get a starter at the $11, $12 million mark. Do you trust guys right now like Darius Vines, Alan Winans, AJ Smith-Shawver? Do you trust them more at this point? Maybe even Dodd and Schuster if they take some steps forward. I'm not going to say that right now, but I think there's other options out there and guys who do have minor league options that you might still trust right now more than Micahel Soroka. I think one of the biggest reasons not to keep him at that price is that he's out of options. So if he doesn't prove he's ready out of spring training, you risk losing him through waivers anyway. And then he gets gets that opportunity with another team. If it were me, this is tough. I think I would non-tender him and I'd see if I could work out a minor league deal with him. Maybe one that's a little bit incentive laden. If he does get back to the big league roster, I would do that with Soroka because he's out of options. So it makes it a lot more difficult to keep him on there. So I would non-tender him, see if maybe you can work out another deal, kind of like what they did with Tyler Matzik last year. If I'm Soroka, I decline that. And I go see if I can find a rotation spot at a big league level somewhere else. Because if I'm Soroka, I need work. I need work at the big league level to try to figure this out. I need time and maybe a low pressure environment. So if I'm Soroka, I probably turn that down. I go to the A's, I go to, a rebuilding team, say, can you stick me in your rotation? Give me 15 starts. Let me see if I can figure this thing out. So it's a tough situation. I can see it both ways. Would not be upset at all if the Braves decide to pick up that option. I think that probably is ultimately what they do because they do need the depth. But I think it's definitely a conversation worth having. Jeffrey Humphrey says, we saw excellent stuff from Soroka in brief moments last year. He has tons of potential. I'd agree with that. Aaron said that the Braves keep him, put him in the bullpen, long reliever. I don't see that for him. Carol, do we trade him? What kind of trade value does he have? I don't think there's much trade value there. See if there's a couple more on Soroka here, and then we'll move on to the rest of the non-tender guys. Gary Gibson says, hi, Jake. Soroka is only 26-year-old. We shouldn't have given up on him just yet. Am I wrong, or is he not throwing harder now? He is throwing, like I said, the velocity is still there. Joey Me says, I think A's committed to the process with Soroka. He's paid millions knowing he's getting nothing, so I doubt he cuts bait now unless the elbow injury is real. I think that's a great point, too. The Braves have spent almost $9 million, over $8 million on this guy the last 3 years, and have gotten little return for him. Are you going to give up on that now, or are you just going to take another $3 million flyer here as the Diamondbacks take a 4-2 lead in the seventh inning? Go D-backs from Protect PR there. Jeffrey Humphreys, $3 million, an absolute bargain. Yes, it's not a lot of money. Mass Boost, and money invested in him so far with signing bonuses is over $12 million. And Soroka's, according to Fangraphs, is worth $35.9 million. So the Braves are net positive on him right now based on what they've got. But we're obviously not looking at the past. What is he going to give us in the future? So again, I definitely think there is, a good chance that the Braves do bring him back. And I think there's a good case for that and reasons why they would as well. But we'll see what happens here. You got to make that decision here pretty quickly after the World Series. And hopefully we'll have our matchup set here pretty soon later tonight as the Diamondbacks and Phillies wrap things up. Next, we'll get into the other non-tender candidates for the Atlanta Braves. Who are some other guys they could cut loose? This is going to be a tight 40-man roster crunch as well for the Braves in the offseason. We'll discuss all of that here next. October baseball is here. You got the World Series coming up here soon. You can get in on all the postseason action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Join FanDuel today and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to create your new account, and then you can get in on all the action from the first pitch until the final out. Bet on everything from strikeouts, home runs, who will win the game, who's going to win this World Series coming up. And if you don't want to wait the whole game to get a W, predict what will happen in the next at-bat with quick bets. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. Step up to the plate this postseason with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Also visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. And you continue to listen to Postseason Baseball with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Let's quickly get into some of the other non-tender candidates. I know I spent a lot of time there on Soroka, but I just think it's an interesting conversation. Again, at the end of the day, I think for $3 million, you probably do just bring him back. But again, the no options thing is kind of where I get hung up. And that's where you're going to see a lot of hangups on these arbitration eligible players. The Braves have 13 arbitration eligible players: AJ Minter, Max Fried, Yonny Chirinos, Soroka, who we talked about, Nick Anderson, Nicky Lopez, Colby Allard, Ben Heller, Sam Hilliard, Michael Tonkin, Kyle Wright, Andrew Velasquez, and Huascar Ynoa. I wrote an article on Huascar Ynoa over on BravesToday.com. You want to go check that out. Obvious ones to pick up: Minter, Fried, Wright, Ynoa. And I think Colby Allard, Fangraphs is showing he has an option left. If that is certainly the case, and I definitely bring back Colby Allard to have that depth, and you're not paying a ton for him. So I definitely would bring back Allard, consider him in that group. Ones that you obviously cut, in my mind, Andrew Velasquez, just not really much of a need for him there. And then it's tough decisions on the rest. Chirinos, I'd let him go. He's out of options. I just did not like the Chirinos experiment. Maybe the Braves still see something there that they believe in, but I'd let him go, create the roster space, save a couple of million in doing so. Nick Anderson, I'd probably pick him back up. Again, you're not paying a lot there, and there are some needs in the bullpen. It's $1.6 million projected for him in arbitration. So I probably pick up Nick Anderson, or tender Nick Anderson a contract rather. Nicky Lopez is an interesting one. $4 million projected for Nicky Lopez. That's steep for a glove-only bench player. Could you get the same or similar? I'm not going to say same, but could you get similar value from Braden Shoemake on the bench if it's going to be a guy who's only a defensive replacement? And Braden Shoemake, he may get DFA'd as well as they try to make room on this 40-man roster. But I like Nicky Lopez, and the defense is legit and it's fun to watch. But for $4 million, again, I feel like you can get similar value from Braden Shoemake off the bench for a lot cheaper, but they probably pick that one up. Ben Heller's out of options, but not that expensive, and he showed flashes at times last year, so they probably picked that one up. Again, it's one you could pick up now, and if you cut him later, it's not that big of a deal. Hilliard also out of options, probably redundant. You got Forrest Wall, possibly Eli White as well. So I'd probably cut Hilliard. Eli White may already be gone. I apologize if I'm wrong on that. As for Michael Tonkin, served in a great role last year. Also think guys in that role are somewhat of a dime a dozen, but again, it's not expensive. You have holes in the bullpen. It's $1 million. Wouldn't be surprised if they pick that one up as well. And again, this isn't really much about saving money in doing this. It's really because there's a big roster crunch right now for the Braves on the 40-man roster, because you got a lot of guys who are on the injured list currently that you're going to have to put on the 40-man roster here after the World Series. So it's going to be tough, finding room for these guys and also creating room for moves in the offseason. So it's going to be a lot of navigating here for Alex Anthopoulos once the World Series is over to figure out how to get all these guys on the 40-man roster and who do they tender a contract to and not. Last year, the Braves non-tendered Savino Bracho, Guillermo Heredia, Alan Rangel, Jackson Stevens, and Brooke Wilson. They ended up re-signing Brooks Wilson, Jackson Stevens, and Alan Rangel to minor league deals. So you may see that with some of these guys as well. You probably will see, if they do cut a Ben Hellard or a Hilliard or a Tonkin, I can see them trying to work out some minor league deals with those guys. But there is a very tight 40-man roster crunch right now with the guys coming off the IL. We're going to discuss this in more depth on an episode next week as well as we look at the 40-man roster crunch that this Braves team has. But I think there is certainly going to be some of these guys who get non-tender just for the simple fact that Braves don't have room for all of these guys on the 40-man roster. And I don't think any of these guys are huge losses, in my opinion, the ones that I talked about, the Chirinos, Hellard, Hilliard, Tonkins of the world. If you need to non-tender those guys to make room, certainly think that you can. And again, like I said, you may be able to just sign these guys back on minor league deals. And I think the Braves try to do that. Eddie Buckley says Lopez, let him go and bring up Grissom. I don't agree with that. I'm seeing some others kind of say that as well. In my mind, it depends on what you're looking for out of that bench spot. Nicky Lopez provides so much value defensively, but he's not coming in late game for Austin Riley. He's not coming in late game for Ozzie Albies, even though Albies' defense wasn't good this past year. It's just not going to happen. He's not coming in late game for Matt Olson, and he's probably not coming in late game for Orlando Arcia. So what is he there for other than to give those guys a break every now and then? So I like Nicky Lopez. I think they're going to pick up the option. Still, a $4 million for a defense-only type of guy. I think you can get similar value for a Shoemaker, even a Grissom. But in my mind, if you're going to bring Grissom up, you got to find ways to get him in the lineup. Protect PR. We probably need to find 15 to 17 million to get a starter. Again, I don't think you're going to save a lot of money here unless you do. If you do cut Soroka, and Lopez along with, Hilliard, Chirinos, Velasquez, you're saving around $10 million. So there is, the possibility to, save a little bit of money there. But again, that's not really the whole reason of non-tendering some of these guys. It's more so to create spots on the 40-man roster. Jeffrey Humphreys, Jackson Stevens is a tough cookie. I would not be surprised if he wants to come back again on another minor league deal. I think he likes being in this organization. Braves like having him around. Joey Me, can you pay Lopez more than the shortstop starter? That's a great point. I didn't think about. Arcia's making a little over $2 million a year next season, and you're paying $4 million for Lopez on the bench. That's a very good point. Yes, you can, because essentially they were at the end of last year, but Yeah, that's a good point from Joey there. Mass Boost says Soroka said he plans on taking repeat visits to Biokinetics 3D to keep up on his revised mechanical adjustments. That's good to hear. Again, if he can figure that out and he can figure out those mechanical adjustments and how to get the fastball, at least the sinker, down in the zone more. Again, I think he can still be a really good pitcher. So the more I think about it, I know I said earlier I'd probably non-tender him, but again, it'd be tough because if he does figure it out, he could be so good. And to take that shot for $3 million, again, what's the injury situation with how things ended last year? How confident are you that he's going to start the year in the big league rotation because he's out of options right now? Braves N01 bring Soroka back on an incentive contract. That would be best case scenario to me. If you could work out a handshake deal with him to say, hey, we're not going to tender you this contract, but we'll bring you back on a minor league deal that's, incentive laden. I think that would be best case scenario. But like I said, if I'm Soroka, I probably turn that down and I look for a major league contract where I know I'm going to get a shot in the rotation somewhere. Jeffrey Humphreys, injuries are impossible to predict, and we have them every year. Lopez can play too many spots to get rid of. Certainly, you have some value there, but again, outside of that 1 year in Kansas City, what is he giving you with the bat? And he's really just coming in to provide defense. If somebody goes down, I think you're probably going to see Von Grissom come up and start, whether it be shortstop, second base, unless it's third base or first base, then Braves are just in a bad spot regardless. But, I think if Arcia or Albies were out for a significant period of time, I think Grissom would be the one to come back or to come up and start every day. But we'll see what happens there. Cameron said, as a Mets fan, you think they should trade Vogelback to your Braves for a prospect? No, I don't. But thanks for joining here. Braves N01, with Fried gone in a year and Morton possibly retiring, signing a third starter is a must. And I agree. Talked about that the other day. I think with the future of the rotation, a huge question mark right now beyond 2024. I think this offseason, if a scenario presents itself that you can get a starter for 3-4 years as they go through this run, I think now's the time to go out and do that. All right, next we'll talk a little bit about the postseason. Any more questions we have here for those that have joined live, we'll do all of that here next. Gametime has killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats. You don't have to worry when you're buying your tickets to the next big event because Gametime has you covered. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. I know because I use them, and it's so easy to process. Using the Gametime app is so simple. I mentioned you get your view from your seat right there in the app. You don't have to wonder, am I going to have to look around a pole? What is it going to look like from where I'm sitting? They show you right there in the app. Absolutely love that. They got their best price guarantee as well. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Again, it's so easy. I've used it a couple of times to go to Braves games this past year. Absolutely loved it. Again, they got those flash sales right up to Gametime as well. So you get those great deals, get some, improve your seats wherever you were thinking you were going to sit in the 300 section of Braves game. Wait till you see those flash deals. You might get to upgrade up to the 100 section down there as well. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, the postseason continues with the World Series coming up starting this Friday. You can catch all the action on SiriusXM with the SXM app. Speaking of the World Series, we know the Rangers are there, punch their ticket, and a Game 7 on Monday. What a game that was. They absolutely dominated the Astros. Now, who's going to join them? It's bottom of the 7 as I'm recording this right now. Diamondbacks up 4-2, but they got a base runner. Can they hold on? My hopes are not high. We'll see if I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Would love to see a Diamondbacks-Rangers matchup in the World Series. Think that'd be fun. See some new teams in the mix there, and obviously don't want to see the Phillies get back there again and win it all. But looking forward to it either way. This postseason, once you get past what happened with the Braves, has been a lot of fun. Looking back at the comment section here, Alan Hayes says, I remember Alex Anthopoulos saying they are ready to spin, so get reliable starting pitching. that's the case and they're ready to spin, yes, go out and get another starter or two. I'm kind of leaning towards if Morton doesn't come back, you go out and just spread that money out and get two good reliable starters that you really trust. Sonny Gray may be too expensive, but like get a Sonny Gray and then maybe you get a Lucas Giolito or a Jack Flaherty, a guy who's maybe looking to bounce back and get one of them for 8 or 9 million, and you get two guys in that rotation. I'm looking for quantity over necessarily quality because, look, it's still going to be Strider and Fried. You're not getting anybody this offseason that's going to supplant either one of those guys at the top. And just like last year, this past season, you got to have those two guys ready to go in the postseason. They were. The offense wasn't this time around, but those are going to be the guys that carry you in a postseason series. That's not changing, but you do need that third, fourth starter. You need that quality depth, that middle of rotation depth. I go out and try to get two of those guys this offseason if I can, especially if Charlie Morton isn't coming back. Joey May, trading for Cease and Luis Robert kills two birds with one trade. Is it possible without giving up AJ Smith-Shawver or Waltrip? I don't think so. I think any type of deal like that the Braves are going to have to do is going to cost you one of those two guys. Those are the only two legit prospects that the Braves do have. Oh, I thought Kyle Schwarber went. Maximus Fried says, I wouldn't want to spend too high on Cease with how he only had one good year, and that was last year. I still like Cease. You get him out of Chicago there in a bad situation, bad franchise. Mass Boost says, Platoon, Arcia, and Lopez at short. Lopez has been the best defensive shortstop out of all the shortstops from 2021 on. And Arcia has been amazing against left-handed pitchers as of late. Not a bad idea. I know Alex said that Arcia is the shortstop, but I still think that's a position if there was, something just fell into Alex's lap like Sean Murphy did last year, I think that's a situation where you still have an opportunity to upgrade. Joey Mee says, say Vaughn, Schwellenbach, and Murphy, David McCabe. Still don't know that's quite enough for both of those guys. I mean, those are both all-star, Cy Young, potential MVP with Luis Robert type of guys. Maximus Fried, Montgomery, Nola, Gray are a combo of two. Yep, that's what I'm looking for. I think Nola and Gray are probably going to be too expensive. I don't know if you can do two of those guys, but yeah, something like that. Two quality mid-rotation guys for anywhere between 10 to 18 million a year. Would certainly love to see that. Jeffrey Humphreys, we need a bunch of pitchers, never too many pitchers. Certainly agree with that as well. We saw last year, as great as the depth was at starting pitching for the Braves, it was not quality depth. And I think this year you're looking for that quality depth in the starting rotation for the Braves. All right, Diamondbacks are trying to blow this here in the bottom of the seventh, so we're going to cut this thing short here. Again, you want to continue to listen to the postseason, do so over on SiriusXM with the SXM app. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks for making us your first listen of each and every day. Subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media at ShortstopBall and @LockedOn_Braves. And we will talk to you next time.